All right. So our next reader is Mike Carlson. He's the author of a book called Tips to Help You Do Your Best, which was published in July by Tupelo Press. His first collection of poems, Cement Guitar, was awarded the Juniper Prize. His poems have appeared in Antioch Review, Gulf Coast, New Letters, Seneca Review, the Southern Review, and elsewhere. He is currently a teacher at PS 107 in Brooklyn, and I welcome Mike Carlson to our stage tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Kenzie, for that lovely reading. Ode to Puddle Jumpers and Chicken Buses is my new favorite title for a poem. Thank you for that. And I also just want to thank the Tupelo Press for publishing. This is my book, Tips to Help You Do Your Best. It was a long time between my first book and this book coming out, and I was obviously very excited that they chose to publish it. One thing they asked me to do when they accepted it was they said, well, we would like you to write a reader's companion. It's something Tupelo Press does, and it's kind of a cool thing. Unless you have to write one. I was terrified. I didn't feel like I should be writing anything about my poems, and it gave me a great deal of anxiety. But anyway, I wrote it. It hasn't been put up yet. They're supposed to put it up soon. But I thought I'd start tonight with that as sort of a way of introducing some of these poems. I thought I'd just read the first paragraph of the essay I wrote and the last paragraph. So, in going with the theme of the book, the title of the Reader's Companion is How to Win at Poetry. My father collected a lot of handbooks and manuals. He set them on a set of shelves he built in our basement, and as a kid, I used to pass them on the way to and from his workroom, where I was often up to no good. Maybe the shame or regret I felt after crushing the head of a Star Wars action figure in the jaws of my father's vice, or disfiguring my fingernail with his retractable box cutter, made me particularly receptive to the evangelism of those book titles. Eventually, they got caught in the web of my consciousness. They still hang there, a bizarre collection of disingenuous metaphysical bullet points. How to stop worrying and start living. The dynamics and thermodynamics of compressible fluid flow, how to think ahead in chess, sizzlemanship, dress for success, scheme your way to riches. Something about the way this type of literature announces itself has always incited my imagination. And this is the end of the essay. I am not a great chess player, but I have studied chess on and off throughout my life, and I have acquired a number of chess guidebooks and manuals. I am fascinated by how these books promise mastery of something so increasingly complex, while at the same time making clear that a game can be hopelessly lost after only the first couple of moves. Maybe what I most appreciate about these books is how explicitly they illustrate the shallowness of my own understanding. I can concentrate on the first chapter of a book about the Smith-Morra Gambit, on 5 or 6 moves explained on a page that goes on to describe dozens of others, and then I can riffle through the hundreds of pages that follow and feel, with a profound kinesthetic emphasis, how extraordinarily far I am from any command or expertise. I feel the same way in my daily practice of writing poems. Um, the first part, this book is written in 3 sections. I thought I would read the first 3 poems of the book and the last 3 poems of the book, and you can infer everything that comes in between. So the first section is called The Daily Practice of Making Poems. And I started with the title poem because I didn't want to feel like I had to build to anything. So here it is, Tips to Help You Do Your Best. What is helpful is wine and knowing how to tune the bottom string of your guitar by listening to a car door slam and adjusting for the make and model. Otherwise, stones line a broken hillside. Oak trees extend in all directions. Scientific case studies rejecting the value of multivitamins keep coming out. It's early still. As long as you're alive and well, shoplifting remains an option. Life is hard, and people are feeble, and birds mash down the corners of an empty box of raisins. The end of the day should be down there somewhere, below the fire escape or behind that wall of purple canisters. The end of the day should be something you can draw in detail, like a pine cone. Um, One morning I got up, I write in the morning very early before school, and I opened my computer, and my daughter had been up doing, she's 12, she had been doing like AI stuff. I don't know anything about it, but it was like you could put in text and it would create a picture. And I got sort of like curious, what if I dropped a poem in there? What would happen? And so I dropped this poem in there, and there was a bird and box of raisins and oak trees extending in all directions and a broken hillside. And I was like, ah, yes, this is what I want. So I was relieved. I thought I might drop it in, and whatever I saw would make me never write a poem again, but it was okay. Um, Landscapes are very important to me as a poet. This poem is called Hospice, North Dakota. I'm not sure if this is a town. The stores don't sell a single thing a dying person needs. Every couple hours, the slanting trees lean closer to the ground. In a few days, they'll be down, wet roots drying over pits the state will use as graves. Dying people need bicycles to assemble in darkness, or jobs writing instructions for self-pulling lawnmowers, or antlers rising from the tall brown grass that stretches back toward the bandshell. They need to know the state won't bury them in a hole left by the failure of a tree. And trees can't fail, only men and women, only towns if that's what this place is. And towns can only fail if the reservoir reflects the condos on the hill in some weird, unfortunate way that highlights how cheap the siding is and makes them hard to sell. Only an exhausted bird would nest here, chest high between signs for two stores that failed in this strip mall. Only a bird tortured by storm who watched her mate give up mid-air and drop to the cornfield below like a wine bottle. Wrong flex, wrong flex the landscape like cheap insulation. Wrong oak tree, wrong car door, wrong mailbox, wrong joke. There are reasons why people try heroin, real reasons that camping can't resolve, or art, or getting a job at the cemetery. Thank you. Um, let's see. All right, I'm gonna read the third poem too. The third poem is called Gross Cove. Um, I don't know, I used to have another title for this poem, but I read it to my friend Amy, and she said, I think I get this. It's about a gross cove. So this poem is called Gross Cove. Does the sky mean more to the fox than the jellyfish? These stacks of dead cod separated by magazine covers don't convince me either way. But the marina parking lot is almost empty. A seagull follows the shortest path possible through a rubble of asphalt and triangular clamshell. Old docks destroyed by rain slant down into dark green water. There was a time in the great salt lake of my purposes when I went around repeating the phrase, boating is not okay, but no longer. The confidence that came with that cynicism has retreated into the tower in my nightmares I can't enter. A clacking of metal eggs, a reticent whimpering, but the door doesn't open. Picture an anorexic butterfly being operated on by a maple leaf holding a scalpel. That's what I do. I am like a child who has been caught in a second lie and is preparing a third that his exasperated teacher won't even listen to. And boating is fine. Spend the day considering the psychological consequences of refusing to wear a life preserver. Stare at a compass. Keep saying starboard until the vowel sounds blur and you have no idea how it would look scrawled out on parchment. Decide things. That's what I do. If I ever become an arsonist, for instance, I will concentrate mostly on lighthouses. So I'm going to jump to the end of the book now. The end of my book is a sequence of like poems in sort of like three parts that use a title in a similar way. And the last three poems in the books are pamphlets. And they're from the section is called Theory and Practice of Landscape Poetry is the last section in the book. All right, let's see. So the first one is called Pamphlet on the Subject of That Which Cannot Be Known. Already this spring, I've been startled twice by what I thought was a raccoon darting out in front of my car. And both times it's turned out to be a strong wind helping a plastic bag free itself from underneath a dumpster. The landscape of water wheel and post office depends for its livelihood on the way light changes. There are parts of this town that no one ever sets foot in. Cloisters of gnarled grass that never thrive or die or appear in any photographs. There are parts of this town that stand right next to each other and never touch. I am thinking of the car wash and the beer garden, the gargoyle and the bell tower, the sign for the bank and the picnic table chained to the boat. Yesterday, I asked my students what they were excited about, and not one of them mentioned the landscape. All I could do was stand there beside a little metal cart and a pile of miscellaneous power strips and extension cords. Out the window, a cold helicopter glistened in an otherwise moth-pink sky. I tried to put my finger on what separated the wads of green light, brushing the side of a dented moving van from the undulations they landed in and the siren that leapt from the earth. My students were excited about getting on with their lives. They were excited about jumping down steps and shouting non sequiturs. They were part of the way light changes, and if their leaping had anything to do with the landscape, it had to do with what I thought was a screech owl on the handlebar of a bicycle outside the supermarket. It had to do what might have been a tornado between the storage building and my neighbor's balcony, what might have been a sword in the recycling bin outside the courthouse. The second of these is called Pamphlet on the Subject of Whether or Not You Need a Teacher. It isn't just you who sees the light outside the deli as a test. I measure myself against that glittering also. Sewer caps remind me of eye sockets. Moonlight flecks the asphalt where it's wet with beer an old man spilled while waiting for his bus. If I find a knife wedged between two bricks in the side of an apartment building, or what looks like a cap gun stuck between an electrical box and a lamppost, the strings of my abdomen tighten around the feathers of what feels like an impossibly delicate arrow. I'm baffled by my desire for new kitchen utensils and bored with my pornographic memory of women with biblical names. I still imagine myself inexplicably triumphant and famous for jokes that every single person thinks of. I forget my friends have lost sisters and fathers, husbands and children, and that death is always recent, incandescent, and awful. I don't know if you are born yet, or if your hairstyle matches your mood, or if you are suffering from something heartbreakingly specific. But I know you are suffering in general. I know you are grieving or in the interval separating two bouts of grief. I know you are tiptoeing between two unforeseeable phone calls. I too have held a cold domino and made plans to put socks on. I too have sipped expired cider and been unsure, then sure that it was rancid. I know you need a teacher. I know the sky can be freakishly green and that whoever might offer instruction will fail you. I know the final lesson is the same for everybody. There is always one inelegant and shiny detail that disqualifies your savior as a model. All right, and I'm going to end with the last poem in the book. It's called Pamphlet on the Subject of Light at the End of the Tunnel. It's a lot to lose everything, but you hear about it often enough. With so little moonlight left, the fraying wicker seatback of the rocking chair barely stands out against the pile of pizza boxes behind it. You forget how lucky fortune tellers are, how they can surprise you by just dressing casually and not weighing in on things that can be verified by opening cabinets. Browsing the landscape for objects that allow them to say things, fortune tellers are like poets. They are like people who went to college to study advertising and discovered ceramics and now work at an insurance company editing quarterly reports. Before I was a landscape poet, I was a fortune teller, and I wore what you might or might not expect me to wear if I was seated at a table behind a crystal ball in a single panel comic. I thought I had lost everything, but I had only lost a number of people who were dear to me. At dusk, I used to pause and look up at the women on treadmills in the gym above the movie theater. And when I joined the gym above the hardware store, I used to look down at the Christmas trees discarded between the parked cars and the frame shop. It didn't occur to me that I would make eye contact with a squirrel that a hawk had scooped up and taken to die on a lamppost. It never occurred to me that things would get better, then worse, and then good again, and that I would sit in that goodness, trying to apply it to the final bad thing that was headed my way, trying to ready my eyes for whatever gaze they might meet, looking out from the gym above the temple. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Wonderful, wonderful. It's been so nice to hear your work, and everyone was just delightful. So thank you. And some very serious things dealt with in a very creative, unique way. So appreciate that.